This is a video response to Binladens. The Islamification of Europe is a complex issue, but it touches on some problems within European society, and that is the problem of a capitalist market producing a surplus which is unattainable by its population. I'm a social democrat, but I find myself agreeing with Geert Wilders on some subjects to do with Islamic immigration. But let's deal with unattainable surplus first. Well, the capitalist markets produce a surplus of, say, houses. There are over 1 million houses within Britain which can't be filled because people can't attain the surplus. They can't obtain those houses because they don't have the means to. And so those houses become abandoned. And what will they be filled by? They will be filled by immigration. Because we're in a paradox here of when immigration is increasing into Europe, and Islamic immigration especially, with a birth rate of Islamic people of over 3 times higher than the European population, that is the people of Roman, Nordic and Celtic descent, then we have, at the same time as Europe is becoming a hyperpower, but we also have the problem of not of Islamic immigration as a problem in itself, but what hides within it. And what hides within it can be the strand of Wahhabist global jihad, which the Binladens, the neo-feudalist crime family, represent. They have trillions of dollars and they have hundreds of thousands of people working for them who can move into Europe and if they threaten to cause havoc. But at present they've taken a very subtle policy of attacking America almost exclusively and Britain because of the HSBC bombing in Turkey and the British Embassy attempt to storm the British Embassy in Yemen recently, this week. They've also let's not forget, 9/11, and waged a war which has isolated Europe away from, in the media, away from the actual fighting in Afghanistan, which is another subtle policy. They have used their power over Pakistan and Saudi Arabia to keep themselves very secure. They've used the ISI and the Pakistanis to close the border in Afghanistan. And we must not forget Afghanistan. Afghanistan is becoming the forgotten war. And I will explain my fear about Afghanistan later on. Well, the Islamification of Europe is also being used by the United States to damage the prestige of the emerging European hyperpower. And you can see that is one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is that the Bin Ladens attacked the United States to show off how powerful they were. And I don't believe that in these conspiracy theories, other than the conspiracy that actually took place with the Bin Ladens themselves. That was a conspiracy. Its defining feature was its secretiveness, and there was more than one person involved. That is what a conspiracy is. The Bin Ladens build buildings all over the world. They used to be known as the Leiden Corporation in London and used to build buildings all over London. People thought they were Dutch, for crying out loud. Okay? They know how to demolish a building with bombs, and they know how to put suicide teams on planes and fly planes into buildings. Need we look any more further than the people who were increasing immigration into Britain, the Thatcherites, and their allies in America, to look at who is trying who's trying to subvert the American government by saying that some other group other than the Bin Ladens, that is, I'm talking about the 9/11 Truth movement here, had something to do with it. Well, if there was a Zionist Christian conspiracy, it wasn't 9/11, it was Iraq. Okay? Iraq was a major mistake for the Israeli firsters in America and in Israel, and also for Exxon and Halliburton, who lobbied for the Iraq War. there was also a major mistake for the Bin Ladens to do 9/11, since it outed them out of the international system, which they so had long coveted and been part of because of Churchill and Roosevelt bringing them into the international system through recognising their sovereignty in the Arabian Peninsula since 1947. They thus grew their power by serving the Saudi royal family, or a crime family, and then grew through the intelligence networks that they developed into the Pakistani ISI. And so thus by using construction and oil companies and banks, Islamic banks, they started to feed off of the oil revenues which came from the link between the dollar and the petrodollar. Now, every time the Federal Reserve produces more dollars, they're exporting their inflation, America's inflation, into the oil markets. Thus, Europe is having to pay for America's debt and America's wars. All right? And so the Bin Ladens scraped the cream off the top, so to speak, and they used the Islamic banking system to wash their dirty drug and oil money. Now, the American Federal Reserve isn't doing this for the American national interest, it's doing it for its own interest, but they're not doing it to cooperate with the Bin Ladens. There's not a conspiracy between the Bin Ladens and the Federal Reserve. They are doing it two different groups are doing it strictly for their own personal reasons, okay? They did not cooperate on 9/11. The Bin Ladens did 9/11 all on their own, and Osama bin Laden admitted that they did it and that he had help from his family on Al Jazeera, which is the Bin Laden's mouthpiece. Now, my fear is that if Osama bin Laden dies, or they will say he's simply the black sheep of the family, and that, oh yes, now we will re-enter into the international system. And that is my greatest fear. And the reason why I believe this is because the lack of attention that is given to the operations that the Al-Qaeda does in the Western news. It's like the Afghan War has been forgotten. Although there are good reasons for secrecy, I understand that. However, in the Islamification of Europe, we must see that the tentacles of the Bin Laden crime family are there because they have the trillions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of people working for them to radicalise the Islamic youth of Europe. And that is something that is a great fear to me. Now they will turn on Europe. That is what they've said they will do, and they probably will do it. And let's not forget that Pakistan and nukes are not Pakistan's. They do belong to the Bin Ladens because they have the means to be able to get there. These people kill people's families. They killed the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Benazir Bhutto. They're extremely dangerous and evil people. And if you've seen my videos, you will know this. I've done several series on them called Media Wars and Bin Laden's Evil Bastards. Also, check out my videos on Western rationalism versus Middle Eastern religions. All three Middle Eastern religions, fundamentalist Christianity, fundamentalist Judaism and fundamentalist Islam, all believe that people are fundamentally evil and they drive towards feudalism. That is the belief that some people have the right of life and death and ownership over others. This is an extremely terrible idea and extreme concept which has that people in a social market, a social democracy such as Europe, have to understand. And that's why I agree with Geert Wilders, and I think his trial is actually a disgrace, although it's being done for strategic reasons as we fight the war against the Bin Ladens abroad. What must Europe do? Europe must invade Saudi Arabia and Yemen and Pakistan, with the United States of course, and end this war where it started. We must never allow them to enter back into the international system.